What's the story, Morning Glory? What's the word, Hummingbird? Thank you so much for clicking on my channel and for joining me for this review of Married to Medicine Season 9, Episode 2. So, Dr. Heavenly thinks that she might be pregnant. So, she goes to Dr. Jackie. She tells Dr. Jackie that she hasn't had her period in like, I don't know, a couple of months or something. So, she thinks there's a possibility that she might be pregnant. Dr. Jackie's like, hell to the no. Those eggs are not egging, but girl, you're probably entering perimenopause or premenopause. And Dr. Heavenly is like, no, she's still, a fresh young chicken. Menopause ain't nowhere near her atmosphere, her stratosphere. So, but she has all the symptoms of being perimenopause: the low libido, the dryness, and so Dr. Jackie's like, girl, this is you're entering into, the mature stage of a woman's life called menopause. And Dr. Heavenly definitely wants us to know that daddy, her husband, Dr. Damien, is very well endowed indeed. And so I don't remember in what context she brought up his physical features, but she did mention that he was more than enough. And yeah. So Dr. Jackie's going to run some tests on her to see, exactly what's going on with her body. And I just hope that Dr. Heavenly doesn't take it too bad when the results come out that she's definitely entering menopause. Moving on to Dr. Contessa. Dr. Contessa has Latoya over at her house. Latoya brings her kids and they kind of like have a play date with all the children. Contessa starts talking about how Heavenly had really hurt her feelings when she was blabbing about her relationship all over YouTube. Y'all, I cannot take this seriously. I just can't take it seriously. This whole Contessa versus Heavenly. I went to go watch Dr. Heavenly's YouTube channel. Dr. Heavenly has not really been like my absolute favorite on this show, but after watching her YouTube, I think my opinion about her is kind of changing. She's very problematic. Her mouth is reckless. She don't give a damn. She will say exactly what's on her mind. What we're all thinking, she verbalizes it, and it hurts people's feelings because she says some very problematic things. Dr. Heavenly, I don't know if Dr. Heavenly is the way she is on her social media because she wants to gain followers. So the more problematic she is, the more followers she gets and the more views she gets. I don't understand because she doesn't need the money from social media, obviously. So I don't know if she's just trying to gain popularity because she doesn't know how to be a friend. I mean, she talks about everybody. She talks about private conversations that she's had with people that are her actual friends. She's all about talking about, well, this is where Dr. Jackie said, and I said this, and Jackie said this, and Simone said that. When they're having private conversations in the off season, when they're not filming at all, like when they're just, jaw-jacking on the phone as girlfriends, Dr. Heavily reveals all of those conversations. And I just don't know how she can be anybody's really good friend the way she is on her YouTube channel. It's just like you cannot tell her anything because she will blab it all over YouTube. And so the reason why my opinion about her is kind of changing is because Dr. Heavenly is extremely entertaining. No matter how I feel about her character on the show, YouTube Heavenly is so entertaining because she gives you all the tea about everybody on this show. She lets you know who's really friends with who, what's going on with people's money. She talked about Latoya like a damn dog. She lets it loose on her YouTube channel and it is thoroughly entertaining. But at what cost? Is it worth losing your friendships over? Is it worth being portrayed as, I don't know what's going on. Let me move on. So when Contessa is telling Toya about heavily talking about my relationship on YouTube, I can't take it seriously. I just cannot take it seriously. And I really don't care for Contessa either because I didn't like how, look, I don't care for Latoya. I don't care for Toya that much either, but I didn't like how Contessa talked about when she called Dr. Eugene fat. I didn't like that. I don't know what season it was. I don't know if it was last year or the year before when Contessa called Eugene, a fat bitch. I did not like that. So ever since then, I've been a little bit turned off with Contessa. I used to like her before when she was like, why are we celebrating people paying their bills? when Eugene and Toya had that debt free party, and Contessa was like, "Why are we throwing parties for people who pay their bills?" I liked her then, but then when she called Eugene a fat, you know what? I was like, Contessa, that's really below the belt, and I didn't think you were like that. But anyways, so when she's complaining about Heavenly and her YouTube shenanigans, I cannot take it seriously because I think it's hilarious, and I wish that Contessa, if you're secure in your marriage, it shouldn't matter. But then again, Contessa, you talked about your own marriage. You talked about your own marriage. You wanted to make it look like you were this victim. Your husband was horrible. You wanted to get a divorce. You made your husband look so horrible. We cannot like him any less because of the stuff that Heavenly's saying, because you've already made us dislike your husband to the point where we can't possibly like him any less. You're not ruining, Heavenly's not ruining your husband's reputation. You ruined your husband's reputation. Heavenly is just confirming the stuff that you had already said. Moving on to Anila. So Anila, she talks about her blogging, right? I haven't been to her Instagram or whatever it is. I haven't been there yet because I really want to know if she really has 80,000 followers. I thought she would have more, but she says she has 80,000 followers. Her blogging, her social media is really blowing up. You know, she gets things sent to her, gifted to her every day from various companies. And then we also find out, you know what? I think Anila, her husband, has a smart mouth and he never turns it off. Everything out of his mouth is like a smart remark. He's never serious with her. But anyways, so then we find out that her Nanny Gomez, who's been with them ever since she was pregnant with her son, she's going to be leaving. She plans a really nice dinner for Anila and her husband. So she gets them all, you know, buttered up, and then she sits down with them and she says, "I'm going to be going back to Houston to my family. So my time here in Atlanta is up. I'm going to be out." And so Anila and her husband looked really, really shocked and devastated. They couldn't believe it. They're like, "What are we going to do without you?" And I totally understand because she became like a part of the family. And Anila was talking about, what am I going to tell my kids? Because, you know, they've known you practically their whole entire lives. So how am I going to break this to my children? And Nanny Gomez was like, "Girl, you'll work it out, but I got to go." Moving on from there. So Quad. So we see Quad in her Munty life, you know. She's like a mom aunt. She's a Munty, and her Munty life. She was taking her nephew to school, and I cannot believe that little boy is 6 years old. He looks like he's about 15, and he's got the personality and the attitude of a 15-year-old. But she was taking him to school, and he also wants her to pick him up from school as well. But she's like, "No, I drive you to school, and you take the bus back home." And the little boy Mason says, "I don't like the school bus because they be maniacs on that thing." Hilarious. So Heavenly, we find out, you know, she has her beauty supply store and she's going to be having a grand opening for her beauty supply store. So she's going to have a fashion show, and some of the ladies are going to be participating in the fashion show, and all this and that. So she's getting ready for that. Dr. Simone, she has dinner with her husband Cecil, her son Miles, and Miles' girlfriend Andrea. Andrea, I think she's Japanese. The reason why I think she's Japanese is because they were having a conversation about Miles learning Japanese. So I just assumed that the girlfriend was Japanese as well. So Andrea and Miles have been together for a year and a half, and Miles is back in school and his life is back on track after whatever he was going through the previous year, and the parents could not be any happier. So Simone and Cecil, every time Simone and Cecil have anybody within earshot, they kind of talk about relationships. And it's like, I'm tired of that. Like whenever they plan, like whenever Simone and Cecil, if they're the ones hosting that year's or that season's vacation, everything on the vacation is centered around relationships and relationship games. And it just gets really tiring and boring because I don't know what they think they're doing. Because I don't know if they think that I don't know, but I get so sick and tired of Simone and Cecil talking about relationships all the time, giving advice when it's not solicited. I'm tired of it. So they're having this dinner with their son and his girlfriend, and you would think that they would want to know more about the girlfriend, you know, ask her certain questions so that we, the audience, this is the first time that we've seen her. We know that y'all know everything about her because she's in your lives, but we don't know anything about her. So you would think that they would kind of ask questions questions for us to get to know her better. But instead, Cecil and Simone want to talk about relationships. So they were asking their son and his girlfriend, what makes a relationship work? Whatever. And then they revealed to us that they are writing a book about relationships. And I'm like, okay, great. There's an audience for that, for sure. Not me. There's an audience for that. Write your books about relationships, have a podcast about relationships, do all of that, but just don't do all of that on Married to Medicine. I don't want to come to Married to Medicine and just hear y'all preaching about relationships and all of that. Go do your podcast, your books, your TV shows, whatever the hell you want to do, but go do it over there, not over here. So oh, okay. So then we move on. They're qualified. Now they are qualified to talk about because they've been through it all. They've been through the ups and downs. And in this particular segment, Bravo reminded us of Tammy, because I completely forgot about Tammy and how Cecil was having that weird relationship or friendship with Tammy and like moved her into the house or something. That was all so weird. But yeah, they're experts because they've been through it all. And I guess, they are on the other side of their challenges. So Heavenly. Okay, we talked about the grand opening. So now is the day of the grand opening. It's at a shopping mall. A lot of these events on these reality TV shows are taking place in shopping malls, shopping centers. Yeah, shopping centers. It's like it's no glitz, no glamour on the outside, nothing. It's just at some shopping center. So she has her grand opening, and she invites Contessa, even though they're having problems, and she Heavenly really wanted to be reassured that Contessa was definitely going to show up. But Contessa showed up all right, but like there was no love between Heavenly and Contessa at all. So I'm like, why would you even invite her if you're not even going to like interact with her or have a conversation with her or anything like that? But Contessa says she'll show up because she still wants to support Heavenly. So we see all the well-known people show up at this event, like Gary with the T. That's the only one that I really recognized was Gary with the T. I don't know who Nikki Natural is. Is she a YouTuber? I don't know who that is. So Dr. Jackie, she also wants to promote her skincare inside of Heavenly's store. Then there's this guy named Mr. Wright, who was a funeral homeowner. And he looked every bit of a funeral director because he was very, very strange and very, very creepy. So he's there because he wants to do business with Heavenly as far as wigs, because he wants to have a contract with her so that she supplies all of the wigs, I guess, for his customers who are no longer with us, his deceased customers. He wants her to be his main wig supplier for that. So this lady, Nikki Natural, she was doing some heavy flirtation with the funeral director because he owns like 25 funeral parlors in Miami. So, he's very, very, very well paid. So she was trying to get all, up close and personal with him. So then the fashion show begins. All the ladies are going to be a part of the fashion show except for Toya, Simone, and Contessa. So somebody asked Heavenly, was it Contessa? Somebody asked Heavenly, like, why didn't you include the rest of us on your fashion show? And Heavenly said, well, I only ask the women who I talk to every day and who expressed an interest in being a part of it. Girl, where? Who asked you out of Jackie, Anila, and Quad? Who asked you? Who told you, Heavenly, they wanted to volunteer in your fashion show, your wig fashion show? The only one that I can see doing that is possibly Anila because, she's a social media type of person. But I don't see Quad or Dr. Jackie asking Heavenly, can I be in your fashion show, your wig fashion show? I just don't see that happening. So, Contessa says that Heavenly always makes a big deal about, she's a true friend, she's a good friend, she's a ride or die. But then when it comes time to actually prove it to me, she doesn't. She's nowhere to be found because she didn't even ask Contessa to be a part of the wig show and doesn't really communicate with Contessa at the grand opening. So they start the wig show, the wig fashion show, and Heavenly's the first one that walks down the aisle, and she drops it like it's lukewarm, and she did what she did. I'm just so glad that she didn't fall over or hurt her knees or do anything like that because I'm a little bit up there in age. I know she's a little bit up there in age, and we got to be super duper careful. The things that we used to do back then, we for sure cannot do that now without running a risk of some serious injury. So she was dropping it like it was lukewarm, and she did what it did. I'm pretty sure daddy had a great time. He really enjoyed watching his wife, and, I guess was an indication of what was to come later on that night. So then comes Jackie with this. I love big hair. I love big, big, thick hair. I love it. And some people can wear it so well, but not Jackie. No, not Jackie. It didn't look like it was really styled, and it was too big for her tiny frame. Jackie was just like completely swallowed up by that wig. She's just way too small and too petite for something that big. So I don't know why the kid, she could have been rocking like a cute little bob or something a little bit more sleek, for her facial feature and everything, but whatever. And then Miss Quad came, and Miss Quad brought it. She walked down the aisle. She did what she had to do. She understood the assignment. And then Nikki Natural did her. Oh, Anila came down the aisle with like bug spray or something, or air freshener. I have no idea what that was about. And there was no explanation of why she had that can and she was spraying everything as she was walking down the aisle. Nikki Natural came and did her thing. She entertained us for a while. And then little Miss Alora, she came, and she was so adorable. So the fashion show was what it was. I think Toya called it. Did she call it ghetto? She said it was. She called it something, and it was hilarious. So then, Contessa, here we go. Contessa, Lord have mercy. If this whole season is going to be Contessa being down in the dumps because of the stuff that Heavenly says on YouTube, I'm gonna laugh all the way throughout this. It's so funny to me how Contessa is taking Heavenly and her YouTube channel so seriously when I don't know why I think it's funny. I just think it's hilarious. I cannot take Contessa. It's like she's so hurt about it. I'm like, girl, have a conversation with her and get over it. Just tell her, look, girl, I know you got to do what you got to do for your social media. You're trying to expand your whatever. But please don't talk about me and my husband. Or when you said this and that, it really hurt my... And then just move on. And just forget about it. Just move on. Everybody knows when you watch Heavenly, you have a hard time even believing half the stuff that she says because she gets so wrapped up in the things that she's saying. It makes you think that she's kind of embellishing a little bit just to be entertaining, because Heavenly is hella entertaining. She's so funny. She's so entertaining. I could watch her YouTube all day long. And in fact, I had started doing that. I went all the way back like a year, and I'm just starting to binge watch all of her videos because it is so funny. She's so entertaining, and she's so natural at it too. And it's like, I'd rather see her on YouTube, watch her on YouTube all day than watch her on Married to Medicine, because on YouTube, she just lets loose. I don't know if she needs like her own comedy special on Netflix, since Netflix is giving out comedy specials right now. I don't know if that's what she needs to do. I don't know she is so entertaining, and it's like, I want to see more and more of her. But anyway, so Contessa whines to Toya, well, it would have been nice if, Dr. Heavenly extended an olive branch. And Toya says in her confessional, you don't even like Heavenly right now. Why do you even care if she extends an olive branch to you? Y'all don't even like each other right now. And so that was where that ended. And then they had like a group picture, and they asked Contessa to join the group picture. And for whatever reason, Contessa was like, she wanted to be all the way in the back. And I'm like, girl, what are you doing? I would have been front and center. I was like, you want me here? I'm going to be here. I would have been front and center of that group. I would have pushed Heaven out of the way and been front and center in that group photo with the biggest, prettiest smile that you've ever seen. But instead, she wanted to be way back in the corner, far, far, like she's really hurting somebody's feelings. Don't nobody care, Contessa. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. Other than that, Eugene looks like he's lost, quite a bit of weight. He looks a whole lot smaller. He looks really, really good. So that is my little review. I thought it was hilarious. Contessa, her being so butthurt about Heavenly's YouTube, it is hilarious to me. Every time Contessa's up on that screen whining and crying and complaining about Heavenly, I just bust out laughing. Thank you so much for joining me in this review. I really do appreciate it. On your way out, please don't forget to rate the video. And if you like this content, please subscribe, and I'll definitely talk to you later. Bye.